So now to talk a little bit about YEFA, which is under AFI. YEFA is self-operated. Then it is an IRS-approved 501c3 nonprofit organization with a structure which allows students to act as leaders and run the majority of YEFA's operations, of course, under the guidance of adult advisors. Broadly speaking, YEFA's mission is to instill hard skills relating to entrepreneurship, finance, and business, and also soft skills like management for the youth, who can then apply these skills to real world situations and create meaningful change. All right, awesome. So YEFA achieves our main goal in a few core ways. The first is by providing top quality resources and guidance to students to help them achieve exceptional results in business related competitions like the Wharton Investment Competition, Diamond Challenge, and more. In addition, YEFA provides students with a vibrant community of like minded, equally passionate people. I regularly host seminars in which guest speakers and industry professionals give valuable insights to students about their first hand experiences, just like seminars like these. With that, we strongly encourage all students to join YEFA. The Discord will be linked in the chat towards the end of the seminar if you would like to join and learn about further YEFA opportunities. Again, it'll be a great opportunity to engage and to discuss with like-minded peers. That leads us to the Gen Z Career Exploration Seminar Series, which is an opportunity to learn about future career options and learn how to organize events and seminars to exercise leadership and public speaking. In this seminar series, we will host a variety of different seminars regarding different fields of interest. Our first series, which is the one you all are attending currently, is our finance series. Our seminars are hosted by students who do all of the reaching out to speakers, planning, and running the seminars. Specifically, students have opportunities to get involved in our marketing division, event coordination, and outreach divisions, hosting seminars, and more. As a YEFA member, you all can help to run the seminars, attend the seminars for informational purposes, or both. The Gen Z Career Exploration Seminar Series offers a variety of benefits to participating students. Not only can you learn about different fields and career paths from industry professionals, but you can connect with them as well. You can also learn how to host seminars, exercise public speaking, develop leadership skills, and use marketing, planning, and management skills. With that being said, if you are interested in joining the Gen Z Seminar Series, please also join the Discord server, which we will be sending out in the end of the seminar in the chat box so that you can capitalize on this unique opportunity. As a general outline for the seminar, we are first going to hear from our guest speaker, Raymond Mathis, followed by some brief remarks from Angeline Huang, and end with an audience Q&A session. So throughout the seminar, please type any questions you may have in the chat box so that we can ask Ray all of your questions at the end. So let's get into the main portion of today's seminar, and please help me welcome our honored guest speaker, Raymond Mathis, and your co-host for this portion, Frank Liu.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so while Ray is sharing a screen, I just want to say I hope you're all excited to learn and look into the world of finance. And today we're joined by an experienced asset manager who was considered one of the best analysts on Wall Street, Raymond Mathis.
Thank you, Frank. I'm honored to be honored. It's great that you're starting this series. I'm really proud of you, and I think that you're doing a great service for everyone. So I commend you. And I'm quite honored to be one of the first people that you've interviewed for this. So this is very exciting, actually. So today I'd like to discuss careers in business, but we're going to focus on finance. Frank asked me to focus on finance, which is obviously my area of expertise. I've been an analyst and a portfolio manager. I don't need to. Yeah, I've been an analyst and a portfolio manager, and I've done a lot of other things like private equity and things like that. But ultimately, finance is really an art. It's a science as well, and it's something that you kind of have to be into before you get into it. You don't want to go into it not knowing that you want to. So let's discuss some of the career roles and some of the opportunities and what it takes to be in finance, because people shouldn't go into business if it's not something that really interests them. I personally, I'll tell you my backstory real quick, but besides what's here on the screen, the things I'm going to tell you today are like the right way to do it, the shortcuts, the direct route. I didn't know any of these things when I was your age. I grew up in northeastern Connecticut, in rural Connecticut, amongst horse farms. In fact, that was my first job, working on horse farms. I didn't know anything about internships. I didn't know anything about Wall Street. I wanted to be a musician. I was a drummer, and I started a percussion instrument company while I was in high school that obviously didn't go anywhere. But what happened is I didn't do any of the things that I'm about to tell you. So listen, what I'm going to tell you next is really going to help boost your career. But you don't have to necessarily do it this way. If you have other passions and other interests, you can pursue those as well. So what I'm about to tell you is a true story. I actually went to music school. I got my undergraduate degree from Berklee College of Music. And I played in a lot of bands. And I really enjoyed music, and I wanted to pursue it as a career. But while I was there, I also started several other businesses, and some were successful, some were not. Some were, inventions that I thought had great potential, but it turns out there was no market for it. So, stop that and move on to the next thing. One of the businesses was we started exporting musical instruments to South America, which turned into radio stations that they couldn't find transmitter parts, asking us to send them transmitters. I kind of paid my way through college by exporting radio transmitters to Brazil, which was kind of weird. Anyway, when I got out of school, I didn't know what I wanted to do at that point. And I didn't know if I wanted to go into business or if I wanted to pursue music. And I was really on the fence. And so what happened, despite what they put in the flyer about me studying online, no, I actually went to Harvard, and I was on campus, and I studied economics. And I can prove it. I have videotapes of me playing in the Harvard band. I can prove it. And so I was studying economics at Harvard, and macro, micro, calculus. I remember studying calculus. That was hard. And the reason being, I couldn't go directly into an MBA program, because having a music degree, I didn't have all of the prerequisites that I needed to go to an MBA program. So I was studying basically the undergrad prerequisites. And so I was in school, and it was really a fantastic experience. And I got to tell you, I think very highly of Harvard. It's an amazing institution, amazing facilities, and fantastic professors. But after my first semester there, I started, I was on the fence again, and I didn't know what to do. And I realized that if you're going to make it in music, you can only do it once. You can only make it when you're young. You got to do it before, while you're in your 20s. By the time you're 30, you're not getting a record deal. So basically, I went to the city that had the most bands, that were the most active. I moved to New Orleans, brought my drums, and I played music for a long time. I played in rock bands, country bands. I was in the opera, heavy metal bands, Cajun bands, Zydeco, anything. I had a lot of fun. But along the way, I kept starting businesses. I started an inbound receptive tour operation company, and that was great for a while. We had a contract with the first riverboat casino that was legalized in Louisiana. It was called Star Casino, and it was in New Orleans, right next to the Lakefront Airport. And we had the idea that all the customers were coming from Houston. We should charter 737s from Southwest Airlines, get customers from Houston that just fly directly into the airport, and they can walk from the airport on the boat. And that worked out great for a while, until the casino realized that all their customers were coming from Houston, and they moved the boat to Lake Charles, Louisiana, and we were out of business. But while I was doing that business, I found out that there were certain other opportunities. And one of those was that there was no threat of new entrants in the hotel business in the French Quarter, because there's a moratorium. And so I found some hotel properties that were undervalued. And then that's a key tenet of finance. Look at the cash flows, look at the valuation, and then look at the market price. And so I found some properties that were undervalued, and I wrote a business plan and raised some money, and I bought a couple of hotel properties in New Orleans. And they were unprofitable at the time, but I turned them around within the year, and they became profitable. And so I did that for a few years. But then I realized, I got to quit playing music because I'm obviously doing more business in music and it's kind of in my blood. So I went to Louisiana State University in New Orleans, which is now called University of New Orleans. And I got my MBA from Louisiana State University and with a concentration in finance. And so I did everything backwards to what I'm about to tell you. I'm going to tell you the quick and easy way to get a job on Wall Street. But you don't have to necessarily do it this way. If you have other passions you want to pursue, other interests, you can pursue those as well. It's not a big deal. For me, I was really lucky because things sort of all came to a head in a certain way, because after I got out of business school, I with my background in hotels, I landed a job as a controller, which is, kind of a pretty big job for a kid, right? At Starwood Hotels and Resorts. And so I did that for a while, but I didn't want to be, they were going to move me around to different cities. And I decided I just wanted to go to New York and work on Wall Street, because I'll be honest with you guys. I mean, this is a funny story. The reality is this. The reason I went to music school is because I wanted to be a rock star, right? And so in the 90s, I'm playing music in New Orleans and the market was blowing up. That was the time of the dot-com bubble. I know you guys don't remember this because you weren't around, but the market was on fire. And anytime an analyst went on TV and said, I think you should buy IBM, I think you should buy Intel, that stock would rocket up 10%, 20% within an hour. It was amazing. And it occurred to me that those guys were the new rock stars and they were making more money than me. And so that's what really convinced me. I got to quit doing music, quit doing hotels. I got to finish my MBA and I got to move to Wall Street. I got to move to New York. I got to get a job on Wall Street. And so I packed up. I moved to New York with nothing, no job prospects. Took some temporary jobs working in finance. I worked in the office with the controller of the New York Times for a while. That was an interesting job. But anyway, I finally met some people and I got a job, or I got a potential job as an analyst. And I was so excited. I couldn't believe it. And I took the job and I went through the training program. And the next step in this program, I mean, these are hard. And I'll tell you about the interview process in a minute. It's really tricky. But part of the process after the training was, if you want to get the job, after the training, if you still want to get the job, you have to do a complete workup on a company, do an initiation stock report, and present it, give a stock pitch in front of the entire company. And I was working on this day and night, and it was killing me. And that's when September 11th happened. And I was so dedicated to my job, and all these people who are analysts and interns, they're putting in 18-hour days, 12 hours at the minimum, most likely 18-hour days. And you're so dedicated to your job that you don't realize that you're, potentially you're putting your life in danger. And the first plane hit, and I didn't leave. I stayed in the office and worked on my report. And the second plane hit, and I was like, wow, that's really terrible. I don't know what's going on. And it wasn't until I felt the rumble of the building shaking because the towers were coming down that I realized I should stop doing my report and probably think about getting out of here. But it was too late. I was trapped there for a long time. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about your career opportunities. Hopefully your career will start out faster than mine because you're going to follow my advice and you're not going to stay downtown if there's an airplane crashing into a building. Please don't do that. So when you study business in college, if you get an MBA or just an undergrad degree in business, they're going to cover a lot of areas. They're going to cover management. That's a big part of the business programs, generally speaking. They're going to cover marketing. That is really a huge area of not only business management, but consulting. These two areas are big consulting things. Economics. Now that's a huge undergraduate degree, and that's probably the best one for you to get a job on Wall Street, to be honest. Accounting, okay. Not as creative as marketing, I know, but still steady business. And to be honest, the big consulting firms, there are two kinds of consulting firms. Some of the biggest, though, are the accounting firms. There are the ones that do just business management and marketing, and that's their forte. And then there are the ones that were the big accounting firms. They do a lot of consulting. So you can get a degree in accounting and become a consultant. And of course, finance, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Now, I got to tell you, having done several business turnarounds in my life, it's good to know a little of each of these things, because you have to know something about all of these in order to figure out how a business works and how to improve a business, how to make it better. And in finance, if you're going to be an analyst, it's important that you know a little bit about all of these things too, because you need to know how is the business run, how is their marketing, how's their brand, what's the supply and demand situation for their products. You have to understand their financial statements. And then we can talk about finance, which is the time value of money. Really, ultimately, finance is the study of the time value of money. It's a little more than that. But that's what it comes down to. How much should I pay today for a cash flow in the future? Should I buy a new stock from a new company because I think they're going to have cash flow in the future, or should I not? Should I buy a bond today because they're going to pay me, or am I afraid they're not going to pay? That's basically what it comes down to. Now, there are certain industries within the finance sector. Commercial banks, I'm sure you have a savings or checking account. Mortgage lenders, that would be not your big commercial banks, but your thrifts, your mortgage companies, your savings and loan, your local city bank. Insurance companies, huge part of the finance industry. Not only do they write insurance policies, but when they get those premiums, they invest all the money. And so they're very deeply involved in the finance industry. And on the flip side, they do negative insurance. It's called annuities. It's the opposite of life insurance. Consumer finance, corporate finance, of course, is a big thing. You can just go work for a big company and work in their offices and figure out how to refinance the bonds, or when do we need to roll over these mortgages? What's our interest rate on our line of credit? Things like that. Of course, real estate is a huge part of the finance industry. And then investment banks. And here's what we're going to focus on mostly today. Even though most of my career I've been focused in real estate, which is a highly finance intensive business, by the way. You need to have underwriters for loans. You need to have underwriters who are making financial projections for acquisitions or dispositions. But we're going to focus more on Wall Street kind of things today. So I think that's what most people think about when they think about finance. So investment banks, now, of course, those are the banks that raise money for other companies. They issue bonds, underwrite bonds, I should say. They underwrite stock deals. They will look at a company and see what it's worth for an IPO, and they'll make a recommendation as to where they should price an initial public offering. And then they call their clients, and they're usually not just individuals, but mostly institutional clients, such as hedge funds, mutual funds. We'll get into that in a second. But they're the ones who do the big business. Investment management. Now, that's another area of Wall Street, which is a little bit different than the investment banks. Not necessarily, though, because now that they repealed Glass-Steagall, they've kind of merged some of these together. Then we've got broker-dealers. Brokers, I'm sure you're familiar with what brokers do. Now, let's talk about some terminology here on Wall Street, because it's important that you understand this. I think most people, they think of Wall Street as one homogeneous unit. It's not. There are different factions on Wall Street. And the two biggest divisions are the buy side and the sell side. And the buy side is the money management side. They're buying stocks, they're buying bonds, and you're going to need analysts and portfolio managers and things like that. The sell side is different, because on the sell side, that's your investment banks. They want to sell you the stocks and sell you the bonds. So their motivations are different. So on the buy side, we have, of course, hedge funds, pension funds. That's another big aspect. So, most people don't think about this, but if you get a job as an analyst or a portfolio manager, You can just work for a pension fund for the city or the state or for a union or something like that. It's a very stable lifestyle, a very stable income, but most people don't think to look for jobs at places like that. I know some people who I used to work with who now work for the UN pension fund, United Nations, and they hate the fact they're not making as much money as they did on Wall Street, but they love the hours and the lifestyle. Of course, mutual funds. Everybody knows about mutual funds. I would include ETFs here too, except for the fact that there are not that many jobs in the ETF industry. ETFs are generally run by computers, so you don't need analysts or portfolio managers. Oh, of course, insurance companies, like I mentioned, when they write premiums, they collect the money and they invest it. So if there's, let's say it's property and casualty insurance, let's say there's a hurricane that hits somewhere, you've collected all these premiums for 10 years, you've invested it in stocks and bonds, it's grown to a certain size. And so when there's a disaster, you have the money at hand and you can pay it out to the beneficiary. So insurance companies, huge part. Now, the sell side, I would include commercial banks there, because since the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act, commercial banks and investment banks have kind of merged back together. Stockbrokers, that can be in several places. Stockbrokers can be within a investment bank, or it can be a standalone shop. There are a lot of small stockbrokers to this day. Market makers, which is to say, and I'll show you a video clip of this in just a minute. Say, for example, Citadel. You might have a stock brokerage account with Robinhood, for example, and that's your broker. There's not a human on the other side. It's free trading, so they don't hire people. It's all run by computers. But they process the trades through market makers like Citadel, because they get paid for order flow. And none of the trades actually go through the stock market. It's kind of weird, but that's the way the market is evolving. And finance is constantly evolving. You have to stay on top of these things. And of course, the big one, investment banks. And when you think of the sell side, that's really what you think of. Investment banks are the underwriters. They're the ones who get the big deals done. Now, let's look at some of the job titles. And you'll notice that some of them are the same, but some of them are different. And I'm going to tell you what some of the jobs are that you can have. First we're going to talk about the big companies. Okay, so all right, obviously sell side, JP Morgan Chase, it's the largest by market cap. This is not by deal volume, because that goes up and down. Bank of America, after they acquired Merrill Lynch during the financial crisis, they became one of the largest sell side companies. Huge stock trading, underwriting, stockbrokers everywhere. Morgan Stanley, you'll notice the name Morgan appears a lot. It's from the same guy, JP Morgan. Goldman Sachs, obviously a huge name on the sell side. And number 5 would be Citigroup, a very large company. You'll notice that some of these have merged back together. So Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs are still the only pure play investment banks. JP Morgan is merged back with Chase, so it's a commercial bank and investment bank. Bank of America is a commercial bank, but they acquired Merrill Lynch, so now they're sort of a investment bank plus a commercial bank. Citigroup obviously has commercial banking as well as their investment banking group. On the buy side, the largest companies are BlackRock, Vanguard, which is located in a small town in Pennsylvania, by the way. State Street, which is based in Boston. BNY Mellon, which is located here in New York. And JP Morgan Asset Management. And so you'll notice something. So there are companies that are not only combining commercial banking and investment banks together again, but they're also on both sides. They're on the buy side and the sell side. And that doesn't necessarily mean they have a conflict of interest. But what it means, what it means is they're doing a lot of underwriting, but also they're doing asset management for companies, for individuals. They have funds, they have probably ETFs, I don't know. And they probably do private wealth management, which we can talk about later, which is sort of a hybrid of all these things, commercial banking and investment management. Okay, so Wall Street has some weird terminology when it comes to your seniority. It's not like other companies really, where, you know, you can just be a vice president or a president or the chief executive officer. And, you know, it's not like the Army where you can be a private or a sergeant or a corporal or a sergeant and a lieutenant and then a major and then a colonel and then I think I got that in the right order. No, lieutenant colonel, then a major, then a general. I think that's the order it goes. So we've got some weird stuff. We've got executive director. We've got managing director. We've got regular director. Director is the equivalent of vice president. Now, there's something you're going to find out when you enter finance. There's a million vice presidents. If anybody hands you the card and tells you they're the vice president of a bank, don't be impressed. It's like they're one of like 10 million people that are the vice president of the same bank. None of them, it's not like regular companies where there's the president and then there's one vice president. Or maybe there are 3 vice presidents. One is in charge of automobile manufacturing and another's in charge of solar panels and the third one's in charge of spaceships. Yeah, obviously, this is Elon Musk's company I'm talking about. This is different. When you get to a brokerage firm, any senior broker who picks up the phone and calls clients all day is going to have the title vice president. And the same is true of banks. At every bank branch, there's somebody called vice president. I'm pretty sure of it. But anyway, below that, we have, associate director, which is below director. It's between associate and director, so you're associate director. And then there's the associate. That would be your youngest analyst. And then below the lowest of the low, below the associate, there's you. That's you, the intern. All right. That's where you got to get your start. And I never knew this when I was your age. So I hope you take my words to heart and try to get an internship. It will be hard work. It will be difficult. It will take up all of your time. But if you do it, you're going to get a job. If they like you, you'll get a good job at a good investment bank or buy-side shop. So those are the ranks, like general, you know, colonel, major, lieutenant, sergeant, et cetera, et cetera. But like most companies, you have other titles in addition to that, in addition to those ranks. Of course, there's CEO and chief operating officer and CFO. Every company has that. Wall Street has some other interesting titles, though, like CIO, chief investment officer. Most other companies don't have that. Chief economist, head equity strategist. I should have put a nod to my friend Mark Arbiter, who does our Sunday night talks in here too. Chief technical analyst. That's an actual title. All of these firms have, head fixed income strategist, aside from the equity strategist. Then there's portfolio managers. Then there are analysts. Then there's you, summer analysts, or otherwise known as interns. Now, let's talk a little bit about buy side and sell side positions. Oh, I see we have our floor brokers here from the New York Stock Exchange. Yes, had a tough week. So they break out a little differently. So I already described how there's the buy side and the sell side. Now, so all the titles we just discussed, they sort of break out differently. And they actually, even though they have the same title, they might have different roles. And so there's the chief economist or the chief investment officer, chief economist, equity strategist, portfolio manager, and then you have your analysts. Now, you also have traders on the buy side and sell side, and you have interns. If you can get a buy side internship, I would definitely take that if I were you, because it's going to be a much better experience for you in terms of your quality of life and the number of people you meet. Sell side internships get beaten up. In sell side, we have different things. There are generally 2 branches. I mean, I don't want to keep splitting things, but I'll just tell you about it. Usually, like if you listen to a conference call from last week, all major banks reported on Thursday and Friday. All the banks have 2 major components. Investment banking, which is your underwriting, and then trading. And so they have 2 different divisions. And so the analysts, there's 2 different kinds of analysts. The investment banking analysts will support the investment bankers on the investment banking side. But on the trading side, there are sell side analysts. Those are the ones you see on TV. Those are the ones you get to see who go out and public. By the way, don't search my YouTube channel to see my old analyst TV interviews. So you can see there are different kinds of analysts at the same shop, but they're in different branches: investment banking or the brokerage side, the trading side. Trading is still a big part of Wall Street, even though computers have taken over most of the trading jobs. Okay, so we have an economist here too. We have an equity strategist here too, but they're more guiding what's going on over there and what their public persona is going to be, what their message is going to be. And then you have an investment banking analyst, and then you have what would be typically called a sell side analyst. Those are the ones who have to publish research notes and go on TV. Also, those are the people you're going to see, economists and equity strategists. Though you're never going to see this guy on TV, and you're never going to see this guy on TV. Never, ever. And then you have your sales traders. Now, I gotta point something out. So I always talk to when I'm teaching people, I teach classes about this sometimes, and I go over this very briefly, but we'll go over it in detail tonight. When you see somebody on TV pitching a trading idea or a stock idea or an investment idea, I want you to understand the difference between the buy side and the sell side. I want you to know the difference because they're trying to sell you something. And it's usually something they either own and they want to get rid of, or it's something that they're underwriting and they want to sell to people. So a lot of times when you see people on TV, you're going to see analysts, not these guys. You're going to see the sell side analysts. They're the ones who write the research reports and go on TV and say, we think that you should buy stock in ExxonMobil because his investment banking side just did a deal with ExxonMobil to underwrite a new secondary offering. I'm just making this up. This is a hypothetical situation. But they're going to put a strong buy recommendation on that stock. And they're going to go on TV and say, I think everybody should buy it. It's a wonderful time to buy stock in this company. You're not going to see this analyst over here, because this analyst is going to do his analysis on companies. He's going to do a forecast. He's going to figure out what that company's stock is worth, and he's going to tell his portfolio manager if they should buy or sell that stock. They're not going to tell you on TV. They're going to tell only themselves. It's going to be internal. Like the hedge fund analysts don't go on TV ever. They know what stocks are undervalued and overvalued, but they don't tell you. They're going to buy it for themselves. They're not going to tell you. So you need to be aware that there are different things going on here. And the other things too, like traders. Now, there aren't many traders on the buy side anymore because you can use computer algorithms. You can do it through your computer. You can do it through your Bloomberg terminal. You can tell it to just participate and walk along with the market, 10% of the volume or whatever. There's so many different algorithms. You don't need a floor full of equity traders anymore necessarily. But on the sell side, you do. They're called sales traders. So after the analysts, and they're kind of like brokers, to be honest, but for institutional firms. So after the analysts write their note and they say, we think this stock is a strong buy, the sales trader is going to call all the hedge funds and all of the mutual funds and tell them, hey, I've got 10,000 shares of this. I've got 100,000 shares of this. Do you want to participate in this IPO? Do you want to be in the secondary offering? Things like that. So there is a big trading floor of business on the sell side to this day. And we'll look at some of those. And then, of course, there's the intern. I always put that in there because this is going to be your first job, I hope. It's hard to get into an investment bank without being an intern. And to be honest, it's hard to get on the buy side of the industry without getting a job on the sell side first. Often you have to get a job on the sell side and work your way up through some of these ranks before you can get a job over here, because they need to know that you know the business and then you know what to do and you know how things work. So it's hard to get a job in the business, that's for sure. But it's hard to just walk in to a mutual fund and say, hi, I'd like a job as a portfolio manager. That's not going to happen. But if you started as an intern on a sell side shop, and then you got a job as an analyst at the sell side shop, and then you went to the buy side shop, and I'll tell you the difference in lifestyle in just a second. Then they're going to take a look at you and bring you in for an interview. So here's a day in the life of a Goldman Sachs investment banking intern in NYC. And I want you to see what time work starts. Yeah, 7. Okay, and then it goes all day and all night. It's hard. When you first start, it's hard. It's a grind. Luckily, if you work past 8, they almost all give you like a meal voucher. So you can just order food and the dinner comes and you keep working. And then they'll give you a transportation voucher. And you can take a car service home after that. If you live on the other side of the river, they have ferries. I know this for a fact because I've seen them with my own 2 eyes. Goldman Sachs has 2 ferries that run from their headquarters in the Battery Park City area of New York to what would best be described as Jersey City. I guess it's called Paulus Hook, where they have their second office. All day long, people get on those ferries with their Goldman Sachs IDs and their ferries running boom, boom, every 5 minutes back and forth. So they take care of you. The hours are long, but they take care of you. So you get paid really, really well. And they give you food and they'll drive you, they'll give you a boat, it's whatever you want. But you're gonna have to put in a lot of hours. And so now look at this time this person has to sleep or commute. It's not many hours. So you can't live in the suburbs and do this. You can't live out on Long Island 2 hours away and be an intern or an analyst at Goldman Sachs. You have to live in the city or just right across the river somewhere in Brooklyn or Jersey. It's the only way that's gonna work because there's just not enough time. All right, so here's, I'm not gonna play all these videos because we don't have enough time. But I want to give you a little flavor. This one's pretty short, actually, so I can play this one. I want to give you a little flavor of how equity trading works anymore. I know we've all seen the trading floors where it's crazy and people are doing the hand signals, and you've got the different, you're buying, you're selling, and you've got 20 and 21, and that doesn't really happen anymore. Almost all trading, as you know, is electronic. You do it on your laptop, you can do it on your phone. But it all gets processed somewhere. They still actually do have floor traders on the New York Stock Exchange to prevent problems. So when people make a mistake, they don't end up buying 10 million shares of a company by accident. And a lot of them don't even go through the stock exchange, but you have people watching it. So this is what equity trading looks like these days. It's not a whole lot of hand signals or phone calls, and there aren't many people doing this job anymore.
It's the moment investors around the world wait for, the 9:30 opening of the U.S. markets. Inside Citadel's Chicago headquarters, it's eerily quiet, even though this firm trades more stocks every day than the New York Stock Exchange.
Now, 2 minutes they open, so we're about to get going here.
Is there any equivalent of a bell that we're going to hear or see?
I have the world clock up there. That's about it. We're just going to hear the air conditioning above us.
The equivalent of the NYSE's opening bell is just this. Millions of orders that have been waiting all night for the markets to open are rapidly filled by Citadel's computer programs.
How do the books look, guys? So we're pumping through a lot of volume right now. You can see how quiet it is. The phone's not even ringing. Clients are happy. If there was ever an issue, obviously we would spot it first and the phones would light up. We have executed 21 million shares already.
Wow, and we are not even 3 minutes in. Meet the new Wall Street traders. Here, computers like these do the heavy lifting. Citadel's employees with PhDs in applied math, physics, and engineering build and refine the computer programs. And the people who manage the trading floor here mostly look for computer glitches and talk to customers.
They are not making trading decisions. Those are all made by the computers. So they're not making any decisions with respect to whether an order should be filled, what price it should be filled. That's all done in an automated way.
When you click send from your TD Ameritrade account, there's a good chance that Citadel's computers see it. Then they either fill your order or send it out to the Byzantine network of 13 exchanges and 20 plus dark pools to execute it.
Dark pool is really It's an unfortunate terminology that the industry created, and really a dark pool is nothing more than a crossing engine. Now it's called dark because the whole market doesn't know what you want to buy or sell.
We've seen these market dislocations. I mean, is it fair to think of it almost as a technological arms race?
Yeah, I think it's no different than any other industry. 100 years ago, there were literally hundreds of car companies across the U.S., and there was a lot of smaller companies. Over time, manufacturing became very automated. You had factories, and you had the cost of building a factory went up. We are a technology leader. We make a big investment in technology to stay cutting edge, and
So you get the idea. And a good key takeaway is they mentioned this very briefly, that a lot of the people who work there didn't even study business. They studied computer science or math. And that's an increasingly popular thing. Now, the whole industry, particularly trading, a lot of the jobs have gone away, but the whole industry is becoming more and more automated. You have to know a little bit about computer science or coding. I've studied coding. It's important to know a lot about statistics, things like that. There are certain hedge funds where that's all they want, though, is people who've studied statistics or computer science or math, PhDs. So there is that. There are all alternative ways into this industry. Trust me. Believe me, I'm a guy who has a degree in music and I got into this industry. So there are other ways to get into this industry. So that's kind of what equity trading is like. It's not loud. It's very quiet. It's very computerized. This is what my trading floor looked like when I was doing this. So when I was a portfolio manager, we'd meet, we'd talk about stocks, we'd decide which ones we're going to buy and which ones we're going to sell, and then we'd simply enter the parameters of how we wanted the trade executed into our computer, and it would be executed. And we could route it through different brokers, and we could do whatever we wanted. But there were no traders picking up the phone and calling. That's not true of other things, though. It's not true of Forex or bonds. So let's see what it's like if you're going to be involved in foreign exchange or something like that.
We're on the trading floor of Vanguard's fixed income desk. Can you describe the process of what our traders go through throughout the day to make moves for our clients?
Sure. So traders are going to be given orders from portfolio managers. They're going to take those orders, and the first thing they're going to do is look at liquidity in those markets to see how they should go about implementing the strategies. They have many different tools at their exposure that they can use to execute, and they need to go about and find the most appropriate and best way to implement those strategies without having a tremendous amount of impact or having a ton of cost to our shareholders.
So is there a lot of movement? Are they monitoring different funds, and what does that look like?
There's a tremendous amount of movement throughout the day in all of the different markets. Typically, we're segregated in different areas of expertise. So you're going to have an FX trading desk handling all the FX orders. You'll have a fixed income desk handling the bond executions, and then you'll have another desk handling all the derivatives executions. And that way, those traders can specialize in the different asset classes, because ultimately they want to be able to execute in a way that limits the amount of impact and limits the amount of cost that it takes to trade.
So how many funds might one trader be monitoring throughout the day?
It depends, and it's different by desk. We like to set up our traders with the portfolio manager. So in that situation, it might be a very custom desk where it's just emerging market bonds. In other functions like FX, those currency traders are handling all of the currency needs for the entire organization. So coming from equities, fixed income, even from our international sites. And that way, those traders are just specializing on that specific asset class.
When many people think about Vanguard, they think about indexing.
All right, we don't need to go further than that. That was pretty good. Okay. Yep. Okay. So one of your first jobs, probably if you get an internship, you're going to probably be a sell-side analyst somewhere. And this is what your day is going to look like. Like that little timeline showed, you got to be at your desk before 7 a.m. It's brutal. you're going to have a morning call, and that's generally going to be, I don't know, around 8:30, 9 o'clock, depending on what company you're in. A lot of the companies that you're covering are going to have earnings coming out, and if they report before the market opens, it's going to be at 8:30 or 9. So that's when a lot of the action happens. They used to have a thing called a squawk box on your desk, you know, a little speaker box. And you know, the morning call, the analysts would tell all the brokers and all the traders what was going on in the market, what they think is going to happen today. The strategists would say what was going on, and the analysts would say, we put a strong buy recommendation. We upgraded this stock because of XYZ reasons. Here's the catalyst. Call your clients. So there's a morning call. These days, you don't have a squawk box, of course. You just log in on Zoom or your headphones or something like that. But then you have a lot of other stuff you do aside from doing the morning call and talking to the brokers and the traders. You have to meet with the CEOs and the CFOs of the companies you cover. You have to figure out what the company's doing, what's going to happen next quarter. You know, how should you improve your forecast for their earnings? And they won't tell you everything because that's illegal these days. Didn't used to be illegal, but it is now. But they'll tell you, well, your model's wrong. You're a little bit over by about a nickel. So, you know, anyway, then you have to write. A lot of doing finance is actually sales, getting people's money under management. And so as an analyst, as a sell side analyst, you have to write. You have to be a good writer. You have to be great at writing English prose because you have to write research reports and publish them. And then you have to host industry conferences. And that's where you invite all of your clients in. You invite the CEOs and the CFOs of all the companies you cover, and you have the real estate conference or the airline sector conference or the automotive conference or whatever industry it is you cover as an analyst. And you set this up at probably the Ritz-Carlton or the Plaza Hotel or whatever. You invite all your clients in, and they all come in and they have a meeting, and they get to see the presentations by these different companies. So that's a big part of it too. And then you have to meet with the clients. So the salespeople will take you to meet with the clients, who are the hedge funds, the mutual funds, the pension funds, the insurance companies. And you have to tell them why you think this stock is a buy. Why do you think this stock is a sell? Why is this one a hold? Why do you like this company and hate that company? And so that's the next bullet point, pitching the stock trade. You have to make a stock pitch. So you have to know these companies inside and out and know why the stocks trade where they do. And then at night, you have to work on your notes for tomorrow morning's early morning call. So it never ends. And on the sell side, the hours are really brutal and you never get any sleep, unfortunately. Let's see if it's going to let me forward to the next slide. Okay, yeah, so here's an example. A lot of these reports are just simply 2-3 page reports. Not a big deal, especially if it's just an update note. If it's an initiation report where you're first announcing the company to the world, if it's an IPO or something like that, or you're initiating coverage, it's going to be 10 or 20 page report. Or if it's an entire sector piece and you're covering all the companies in your sector, you're going to have 20-30 page report. It's really a pain in the butt to write those, but you only have to do that like once or twice a year. Not a big deal. Quarterly at most. And so here we have one of the traditional ones. It's just a couple of bullet points, usually 2, 3, 4 bullet points tops. And you say what happened. This fake company reported strong results. Company reaffirmed its guidance, blah, blah, blah. I like the fake company name here too. I just clipped this off the internet. Yes, so it's the same thing here. You've got your rating, you've got your price target. Obviously, this is a British company, it's in pence. Your target price, your current price, your target price. So they're too close together, so you make that a neutral and you say what happened. And this is what an actual one looks like. This is an actual Merrill Lynch stock report. You got your recommended target price, your interesting headline. Got to have that so people read it. Your stock data. A lot of this stuff is actually automated. Like this is automated and this is automated. So you don't have to do any of that stuff. You have to be a writer. Behind the scenes, you've got your Excel spreadsheet and you're pulling your hair out trying to figure out how to get to the number that the CFO said they were going to hit. And so when you get to that point where you can figure out exactly what the company's going to do, you have your forecast, Then you write up a story about what's going to happen in order to get to that point. And so then you have your 3 bullet points here. And then you've got some estimates. And then this is the stuff you just pull that right out of your spreadsheet. So that's really simple stuff down here. But a lot of it's writing and publishing. I know you didn't think that was going to be the case in finance, but on Wall Street it is. Publishing research and writing is a big part of it. Going on TV, doing interviews, being a good communicator in public, hosting conferences, hosting roundtable discussions, hosting panel discussions, hosting Q&A sessions, being a good communicator is a huge part of Wall Street, actually. Now, on the flip side, we've got a day in the life of an analyst on the buy side, and that's a lot better. So if you've done your sell side research and you're good at it and you've got a good reputation, then you can move to the buy side as an analyst or portfolio manager. That's what I did. After I was an analyst on Wall Street, I moved to a buy side shop and I got a job as an analyst. And then after after the executive directors figured out that I was a better analyst than the portfolio managers, they fired the portfolio manager and moved me up. That's how I got the job as a portfolio manager. So you do a lot of the things that you do if it's just being a regular stock investor every day. You listen to company conference calls, you read the press releases and the 10Qs, you build financial models in Excel, you attend the industry conferences. So the sell side guys hosting the conference, as the buy side analyst, you attend the conference and you're there to meet with the CEO and CFO and to ask them questions and to figure out if the company is going to do better or worse than you expected. You meet with the company CEO and CFO, you pitch the investment ideas to your portfolio manager or the investment committee, and then they decide if they're going to actually follow your recommendation to buy the stock or sell the stock or bond, as the case may be. But it's a lot easier lifestyle. You can roll in around 8:30, 9 o'clock. The market doesn't open until 9:30. But some companies report before that. They report at 8:30 or 9 o'clock. And you want to see, did the company report a quarterly number that met my projections? If so, I'm not fired. If they didn't, if they missed it, I have to explain this to my boss. Maybe we should be selling the stock. Then you move up to portfolio manager. And of course, I'm sure you've all watched the movie Wall Street, where Gordon Gekko is a ruthless portfolio manager who's buying and selling so much stock he's acquiring entire companies. He's sort of like the anti-Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett buys companies and holds them forever. Gordon Gekko buys companies and dismantles them because of their book value. Now, I want you to not be bored when you watch this. I want you to pay attention to the subtleties of this video, because it's important to understand when she's talking about yoga, it's not because they're trying to bore you to death, but they're trying to instill upon you the difference between the sell side and the buy side. And are you working 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours a day? Or do you get to go home and have dinner with your family? That's the whole point of this video. This is a real portfolio manager. And I believe Fidelity.
My name is Morgan Peck, and I'm a portfolio manager at Fidelity Investments. When I started at Fidelity, I knew I wanted to be a portfolio manager because it's the type of job where you're constantly learning, and I thought that was very exciting. Growing up, there were times where it was tough for my family to make ends meet, and so on a personal level, it felt great to be part of a solution for other individuals and families. For my morning routine, I'm up before 5 a.m. and the first thing I do is check my emails from the traders here at Fidelity. I then, most mornings, will try to work out. I find working out is a great way to reset my mind and recharge myself for the day ahead. While there is no typical day in the office for me, most days I'm meeting with the CEO or CFO of one of the companies I own or want to own. The biggest resource I use when trying to make an investment decision is actually the research department here at Fidelity. I couldn't do my job without those individuals. And there's a constant footpath of traffic in my office with these people pitching me new ideas, bringing new ideas to me. This job is by definition a marathon, and I have run 2 of them, so that actually means something to me. I find for myself it's critical to have a work-life balance. So I have 2 boys, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And as soon as the workday ends, I'm 100% committed to spending time with my family. We have dinner together as a family around.
Yeah, so I can end it there. Let's not waste any more time. So after you make it to the level of portfolio manager, all the analysts work for you and the traders work for you. They report to you all of the things that are going on in the market and what they think the best buys and sells are and things like that. And things get much easier. So it's the buy side's a much easier lifestyle. Let's just put it that way. That's kind of the point of this. I think this is like a recruiting film
Around the
because they want you to work there. Now, the sales traders, that's a little bit different thing. So you're the one listening to the analyst morning call, and you got to become familiar with the positions on the books. You got to see what's going on in the futures markets. You got to see where the clients want to buy and sell different positions. You got to understand the underwriting deals in which your firm participates. Even if you're just a brokerage firm, a lot of these smaller firms do some underwriting, which is to say the Goldman Sachs or the Morgan Stanley will be the lead underwriter, but they bring in smaller firms into the deal. And there'll be 4 or 5 or 6 other firms that are taking a small piece of the business. And they'll call you and say, hey, I can get you a position in this IPO. Are you interested? Blah, blah, blah. And you've got to develop a narrative to pitch to clients. And then you call your clients or get them on the Bloomberg. So sales trading, and especially with fixed income, I got to tell you this. So most of what my work has encompassed in my life has been equities, but I've done a lot of fixed income work as well. Fixed income still to this day has a lot of jobs. A lot of the trading jobs and analytical jobs and portfolio management jobs in equities have gone away because of computers and automation. That's not true of fixed income. And the reason is that fixed income is very, very, it's very different in the fact that, let's say, for example, General Motors has one common stock and it's trades in perpetuity. However, they might have 100 different bond issues. They have different maturity dates. They have different coupons, interest payments, that is to say, and when they mature, they have to issue a new one. And so these are constantly disappearing and then reappearing, and they might be paid off and they might issue new ones. And they don't trade every day. They trade on appointment. You have to find somebody that owns them if you want to buy them, or somebody will be trying to sell them, and a broker or dealer will then take this opportunity and call all their clients and say, hey, I have somebody who wants to sell Detroit, Michigan municipal general obligation bonds, 100,000 bonds. Are you interested? And so there's a lot of action. Now, for most people in finance, I know if you're interested in finance, you think of the stock market. But I try to tell my students, and I do some special projects with students where we do municipal finance, we do fixed income. It's a much bigger part of Wall Street than you think. Everything, every time you take out a loan, Visa or MasterCard, a bank loan, a motorcycle loan, a car loan, a mortgage, all of those loans get bought and sold, packaged into bonds, and they're traded every day. And these traders are doing this nonstop every day.
Half the reason I think I enjoy London so much is because of the job. Yeah, it's a great life. I mean, it's fast-paced. It's exactly the sort of lifestyle that I like to lead.
Well, I'm from New York, and I love New York. It's a land of opportunity. I'm usually up at 6 o'clock. Come out of my apartment and usually hail a taxi.
I'm out the door by 10 past 6. You hop on the DLR in the morning and it's quiet.
You find quite a few people out that early in the morning. This is the city that never sleeps.
I'll read the Times on the way in the morning and see if there's any sort of issues happening in our particular market. I'm in the office about 5 to 7 most mornings. I sit down at the desk and open up my terminal and start chatting to a few clients, and then it's go, really.
At times it can be busy the whole day, it can be slow the whole day. You know, that's the whole thing with the markets, you never know.
Our clients are investment banks, and basically what we do is we try to gather information. We know who's got what, and we know who wants what.
Done, you're done, I'm still bent.
And we try and match these two up.
It's like a jigsaw puzzle, putting the pieces together.
I suppose in a sense we're matchmakers. The major difference between what we do as brokers and sort of investment banking or trading is risk.
If you're on the investment banking side, taking home your whole position, still thinking about it.
We take very little risk home with us. We don't take positions.
When I leave at the end of the day, that's it, on to the next day, let's go.
Yeah, risk is probably one of the larger differences between ICAP's broking world and investment banking.
It's more demanding here, but...
Yeah, that's all you need to see about that. I mean, there are so many different job descriptions, such as analysts, that have different jobs if you're in the investment bank, or you're on the sell side, or you're on the buy side. Same thing with traders. You can be a buy side trader. There aren't many of those left. You could be a sell side trader, which means you're going to be more like these guys. These guys are just brokers. They're matching up fixed bondholders who want to sell with bondholders who want to buy. Like he said, is trying to put a jigsaw puzzle together, and very lucrative business. So anyway, preparing for a job in finance. I don't want to go over on time too much, so let's wrap this up. I'm going to give you the secret sauce. Get into a good undergrad school, okay? That's really key. I got to be honest, I have applied for jobs where former coworkers of mine have gone to work for different shops. And then I saw a job that was appropriate for me at the same shop. And I called my friend and I said, hey, can you get me an interview over there? And they said, yeah, send over your resume. And so I sent over my resume and they reported back, well, the guy said, this sucks, get some people who went to my college, not music school. So, you know, if the higher ups are from Princeton or Harvard or Yale, look, there's cronyism. That's all there is to it. Find an internship. If you can get some experience during your sophomore summer or your junior summer, that's going to go a long way. You're going to meet a lot of people and they're going to be able to help you start your career, and you're going to gain experience. I mean, it's as much experience as it is meeting the people and getting a foundation in business, but networking. Networking is key. It's very important. And then after that, when you graduate, you get a job as an associate, usually as an analyst. And then you're fired and you return to graduate school and you get your MBA, and hopefully you come back at the director level. Now, I'm not saying you're fired, but listen to me. Wall Street is hard. Analyst jobs, entry-level analyst jobs last 2 or 3 years at the most. And it's one of those, it's kind of like consulting businesses for like McKinsey. It's the same deal. It's up or out. You could get promoted to director just because you're so awesome, but most likely they're going to expect you to leave. Now, even if you're somewhat awesome and they don't promote you, maybe you're awesome enough they might help you pay for your MBA. Companies do that. Certainly, if you've been an analyst and you've done a great job for 2 or 3 years, they're going to move you aside, and the next class of analysts is coming in. That's all there is to it. You can't stay there forever. You got to move. So generally what's going to happen though is using, and let's say you got an internship at Goldman Sachs, and then you started as an analyst and you worked there 2-3 years, and then it was time to leave. Well, you're going to go to an MBA program and they're going to say, oh, you were an analyst at Goldman Sachs. You're getting in, trust me, okay? That's like the golden ticket. They're not going to say no. So here's a list of some of the best undergrad schools. I mean, you know who these are. These are not all the best. You know that. I know that. But I mean, here's just, you know, Pennsylvania, UPenn, Wharton, UC Berkeley, MIT. Wow, that's a great one. Michigan and Carnegie Mellon. These are great schools. These are great schools. Of course, you know, look, Harvard is a great school too, but they don't have undergraduate business school, as my students always like to point out. And it's like, I know you can study economics though. Really what you should do is think about studying economics and then get a job. So these are good business schools, but if you go to a school that just has an economics program, that's fine. Go to Harvard and study economics. There's nothing wrong with that. And then these are some of the ones that obviously are great business schools. And yeah, as you can see down here, Harvard doesn't have business until the graduate level. But you got Wharton, Stanford, Northwestern, University of Chicago. I don't know what ranking, who put this ranking together for me? Geez, how did University of Chicago become #1? That's silly. All right. All right, let's wrap this up. So people want to know some common interview questions, and Frank told me I should talk about this just a little bit. So oh, we got some questions in the Q&A already in the chat. So hold on just a second. We'll get to that. So here's some common here's some common interview questions, and these are some that I've had. Pitch me a stock. Not gonna lie, this is a really common one. You go for a job interview, and you're gonna have to know a company inside and out. And you're not only gonna have to know it inside and out, but you're gonna have to say if it's a buy or sell, and you're gonna have to say why. And you're gonna have to explain what your target price is and why, and say it in a way that's gonna make somebody interested in actually taking action on that, so that the broker can take your information, call his clients and say, hey, we think this stock is a buy because this and that is a catalyst, and the target price is this because of the DCF. And you see my point? So pitch me a stock. Build me a long short portfolio. I've had that in interviews before. That's a tricky one. You have to know more than one stock, obviously. You have to know a lot of them, and you have to pair them off against one another. I've had this one. This is how I got a job as an analyst. Here are the 10 Qs and 10 Ks. Build me a free financial statement model, projection, and discounted cash flow valuation. And then they lock you in a room for several hours, and you don't come out until you have this done, and you have to have it done by the end of the day. And let me tell you, sometimes that's hard the first time you do it, but after you do it several times, you find out you can actually get this done pretty quickly. But that's a tricky one. And okay, so here's the one that's a red flag. What are your best investment ideas? And so if you've worked on Wall Street for any amount of time whatsoever, you'll know not to answer this question at a job interview. Because there are a lot of, I'll call them shysters, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, other than they're the sneaky people who work in Wall Street, and they're too cheap to hire more analysts. And so they'll pretend they're hiring analysts and call people in and ask them, so what are your best investment ideas? Compare them against mine, ha ha ha. But they're really just looking to see what your best investment ideas. They're trying to get free research out of you. That's always a red flag. It's happened to me before. It's happened to all of my friends. If you see somebody that's interested in hiring analysts and you go to the interview and they ask you for your best investment ideas, no, don't do that. So, all right, so how are you gonna get that internship? Well, there are a couple different ways. Obviously, there's a College Office of Career Services. There are career fairs. These investment banks show up on campus and will attend the career fair, and you can sign up for a slot to meet with them. That's always tricky. Your professors probably know some people, or they have their own business. So work that route. And of course, networking, know someone. That's the easiest way. And I know if you live somewhere far from New York or Boston, that might be hard. Ultimately, though, if you know somebody, it's going to be very helpful for greasing the wheels. My daughter's in business school right now, and I got her an interview with people at Goldman Sachs just because I know people there. So I think I'm greasing the wheels for it. I expect her this time next year to have an internship there. Now, here's the thing about the internships. Apply early, okay? So when you get there, your freshman, sophomore year, you don't know what's going on. You're starting college, but you got to keep your eye on the prize. These things happen years in advance. And here's one that I just pulled up today. They're already hiring for 2023 summer program. They put these out a year in advance. So this is Bank of America, and they're hiring a year out. So I mean, you can see the credentials here. You need a 3.2 GPA, blah blah blah. You can find these online. I don't need to describe it to you. So also for other interview questions, I hope if you can see my picture on the screen, I'll show you some stuff. There are books on this. There are lots of books on this. Here's one, A Practical Guide to Quantitative Finance Interviews, with a bunch of statistical questions. Here's another one, heard on the street, quantitative questions from Wall Street job interviews. But now, if you really are interested in the business, and believe me, you should be, there's a lot of money to be made in this business, and you can accomplish a lot too. You should read some books. Now, so for further reading, I've got some highly recommended books. Now, Michael Lewis was a Salomon Brothers bond trader, and now he's more widely known as a novelist and screenwriter. He's known for some of his more famous movies like The Blind Side and Moneyball, but obviously he's the writer of The Big Short. And, oh, I didn't pull that one out. And Liar's Poker. Oh, I did pull that out. Oh, The Big Short is here, if you can see me on the screen. And Liar's Poker here. Liar's Poker is a great book, by the way. And it is a recounting of his finding a job when he was getting out of college. And he tells you a lot of the tricky interview things they do. And it's quite hilariously written. It's a great book. I recommend it very highly if you want to start a career in finance. You can learn a lot from reading Michael Lewis's book. Of course, he wrote Flash Boys later. That's not really for beginners. And here are some other books that I would recommend. Peter Lynch, One Up on Wall Street or Beating the Street. Great books. I got a copy of Beatings, or which was this? One Up on Wall Street here in my hand. Great book, fantastic book, easy to read. And if you really want to get into the weeds, and I think you should, and I think this is my last slide. I know Frank's getting nervous. You should read Benjamin Graham's books. And the reason I say that is because what's going to happen is once you get your first job in Wall Street, or once you get into economics or business school, people are going to quote things from these books. And if you don't know what you're talking about, you're going to look foolish. So here's a copy of The Intelligent Investor here in my hand. And some of it's kind of arcane because it was written 100 years ago, and it reads like Shakespeare, but nonetheless, it holds true. And this is the foundation of financial research and investment. So I would highly recommend reading Benjamin Graham if you really get into this. But I would say read Michael Lewis first. If you read Liar's Poker and you think it's interesting to you, and maybe a career in finance is for you.